looks like Iridikron knew a lot more than we gave him credit for, and with this new lore from the War Within, the puzzle pieces just fall into place. As a true native to Elemental Azeroth, he knew of the Void and the Titan rule over Azeroth, and there is a reason he is using the Void to see the Titans fall. As a dragon that knows the deep places of Earth, he must have also discovered the Titan prison over Azeroth that we just learned is known as the World Core, and he definitely figured out things that we still don't know. We recently learned Azeroth had forced Titan servants to rebel, and there could be a possibility she empowered Iridikron with this mission as well to get rid of Titan rule. As he told us, the Darkheart is no mere trinket. He obviously doesn't trust the Void, but he knows its hunger. The Titans took our world, and he will bring them out of hiding. What did Iridikron really figure out, and who is he really working for? If you wanted anything Warcraft related, Gamigo has the best deals on the market that you can get with my link below. You can get almost every other game software, and they also just added mobile top-ups for all your favorite mobile games with the craziest prices. You can also use my code DORON to get yet another discount, so click my link and get the best deals at Gamigo. Iridikron may actually be a much better villain than we had previously anticipated, and really, this new lore enhances Dragonflight so much. Let's be real, while Dragonflight might have been a better expansion, at least from the lore perspective, it was pretty lame. Nothing really significant happened. A little bit of interesting lore with some Titan hints, Deathwing's secret lab, but it all really ended up nowhere, and none of the villains were really that crazy or engaging. However, it all starts to make sense now. Blizzard already confirmed to us in the interview that this was all really a part of the plan. Dragonflight wasn't supposed to have a big storyline, it was essentially like a cool down period to transition from Shadowlands into the World Soul Saga. From the lore side of things, long story short, just one big filler expansion. However, the way they had set up Iridikron is actually genius, and right now I'm so glad they didn't end up turning him into the final boss of the expansion, because he's obviously going to play a big role in The Last Titan, and he will actually be a pretty well developed character by then. We might see a few appearances, maybe in Midnight, maybe in the War Within. They had essentially sacrificed the excitement for Dragonflight and any supposed culmination to make a big showdown in the World Soul Saga. Iridikron's entire storyline was that of the aspects, how they are the true aspects, the primal incarnates, and it all really changed our perspective. Previously, based on the known lore, we believed the Titans had ordered our world in ancient history and gave these noble dragons the mission to protect us. However, that couldn't be further from the truth. They had essentially enslaved them or brainwashed them and destroyed half the dragons in this mission. The big turning point for the dragons was the monster Galakrond, where the aspects had proved themselves. However, we learned in Dragonflight that the entire undead horror was literally just a big oopsie from the Titan Keepers. They had experimented with the old gods and corrupting the water supply, corrupting the dragon eggs, and Yogg-Saron knew this. He ended up turning Galakrond, a regular proto-dragon, into this gigantic undead monstrosity that started eating his own. The Titan Keepers never really apologized for this, by the way, and they just ended up recruiting other dragons to put him down, and Tyr even ended up as a hero as he helped them in this fight, despite the fact that he literally started this entire ordeal, and he should have been the one to fix the entire mess himself. Now, Iridikron knew this, and he decided to use this horror of Galakrond to collect it and to give it to Xal'atath and help her, but we'll get to that in a bit. You all know the story of Iridikron, but I wanted to cross-reference it with the lore we just learned from the War Within, and it's just mind-blowing when you take everything into account. War Within definitely confirmed that the Titans are the bad guys. There is zero doubt anymore, it's no longer a speculation. They created a giant system called the Manifold, and at the bottom of Kazalgard they created a giant chamber to isolate the World Soul that they had called the World Core. Really, all just fancy words for a giant Titan prison they put over the World Soul of the planet that they had previously invaded. It's really all a part of their occupation. Now, do you remember this quote from Iridikron? All they wanted was our world. Now, here's something that is really interesting. We know World Souls are elemental, and the dragons are essentially elemental themselves. They're the purest native form in Azeroth, very similar to the elemental lords. Iridikron was the elemental equivalent of Deathwing, and he not only has a giant tunnel in Northrend, but he also knows of the deep places of Azeroth that no one else does. Guess what is in these deep places? A giant Titan prison that Iridikron definitely discovered. Just try to imagine things from this perspective, and from his perspective. He discovered discovers a giant cosmic prison over his own native planet one day, and then these occupiers, these titans, create a civil war with his own people and get them to fight and destroy each other. Now you can see what he was really talking about. There is actually a pretty legit reason he was so pissed off. On the other hand, Irenicron also knew about the Void. Remember the old lore. Elementals used to rule Azeroth in the primordial times, then the old gods came in, created a Black Empire and enslaved them. This means that they must have also enslaved the dragons if they existed back then in some form. Then the Titans invaded, defeated the elementals as they were forced to serve the old gods. However, Irenicron, being the ancient being, he probably knew about both of these rules, and there is a reason he has a bone to pick with the Titans and not the Void. There must be a reason we don't know yet that he sees them as the lesser of two evils. Another interesting thing I want to mention that you might have missed as well, but this is literally a huge lore change. There have been recent hints that the Curse of Flesh might have been a lot more complex than we previously thought, and we know for a fact that Azeroth started giving Titan servants free will, which created huge rebellions. The voice of Azeroth could be why those of Valoran Titanforged rebelled, and definitely a part of the Kenzalgar Earthen. We have seen this part in the game. An interesting example is the creation of the Traegar. This is what the Earthen had called Magni when they saw him. In the ancient times, when the World Core Titan prison was being built, Azeroth used her own native elemental essence to crystallize the Earthen to get them on her side and to get them to smash this chamber and cause rebellions, and ultimately to weaken Titan occupation. Now, if there was a way for Azeroth to convert the Earthen, she could do the same for her own native beings, which are the dragons. There is a big possibility that Azeroth might have also created or empowered or sent the primal incarnates to save her from the Titan invasion that is in progress. And to not go crazy here with some crazy speculations, let's take this new lore into account. Let's actually examine some actual quotes which sheds light on what is really going on. So you all know the prophecy of the Harbinger, the Awakening, all of that is happening. The part about Irenicron happened as well. It is said that the Harbinger speaks of a primal power that seeks the end of order, and she can bend his rage to serve her ends. A hunger lost to the ages will be reclaimed. Essentially, this says that Irenicron made a deal with the devil, and the hunger lost to the ages was Galakrond that empowered the Dark Heart that will be used to bring the Titans back. Now, remember this actual quote from Irenicron from the cinematic, where he said, "The Dark Heart is no mere trinket, its power now lies in the Harbinger's hands. The Void cannot be trusted, but I trust its hunger. You know, the Titans infected our world, and I will see them extinguished." Here's the thing, as I said, Irenicron knows about the Titans and the Black Empire, and there must be something he knows about that we don't, and why he thinks the Titans are worse than the Void. I don't think he would decide to convert the Azeroth into the Void just to spite the Titans. He knows that this Void corruption will force the Titans to come, and he apparently has something coming for them. He said this: "All they wanted was our world. With this, the Harbinger will pry it from their grasp, and when the Titans come to reclaim their prize, I will be waiting." He then told us that we will not see him until the Titans come and face their reckoning. By the way, do you remember the book that came out back in Dragonflight? It talked about how Irenicron has a giant secret base in Northrend that is still active, probably under Icecrown, and it is a massive tunnel secret base. When he says he's waiting for them, he probably has some arsenal he plans to use or allies we are yet to see. However, this confirmed that he is going to be a Last Titan character because we are getting a huge Northrend revamp. Now, Vyranaut's entire story also gets a bit more depth. Previously, it was kinda lame. I mean, she was on this mission with the Primal Incarnates, then one conversation with Alexstrasza later, she just decides to abandon them and join us. I think she doesn't share the same opinion, and I think she believes that the Void is ultimately worse for the planet than the Titans, and that is why she split with Irenicron. However, seeing that Irenicron is a true, really ancient being of Azeroth, what I find interesting is that he knows that the Void won't win. His plan is essentially already skipping right into the Last Titan. He knows they won't win in Midnight, which means he knew exactly why Xel'Atath needed the Dark Heart artifact out of anything else. As he told us, the Dark Heart is no mere trinket. While we did explore this artifact a bit more, we still don't know what it truly is and what it fully does. It absorbed Dalaran's power, Galakrond's power, it absorbs whatever we throw at it. We shattered it a bit, now the goblins are repairing it in 11.1. I think it will be really interesting to know what Iridikron's endgame really is. Is he actually working for Azeroth? And was his entire villain persona in Dragonflight just him seeing the Titan aspects as nothing but mere enforcers of Azeroth's occupation? Also, the most interesting part will be seeing what his arsenal really is and how he plans to defeat the Titans, because we are going to be fighting them as well, and he might just join our side. Thank you for watching. Check out my video on how N'Zoth saw the same thing by clicking on the screen, and check out my Raid Shadow Legends channel, Doran's Arena, for more gaming videos. See you next time.